Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOTHSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome out to Z's Cream and Bean. It's Sports on Tap, live from Z's Cream and Bean. It's our Ohio High School football coverage here on Mixler. We're live right now and want to thank everyone for joining us. It's been a great show. Last week was a great show. We had some great games here at, and we're going through here at Z's Cream and Bean. So far, it rained a little bit here today, but we're getting back at it in our Week 2 game recaps. And, guys, really, Week 2 is over. I know in the Southwestern Conference, it was interesting, to say the least, to see some of the teams dominate in the Southwestern Conference. And I thought one team really took a huge leap and left everybody in the dust in the Southwestern Conference. What about you, Ed, in the Suburban League?
Not a good week for the Suburban League. Lots of non-conference losses. However, there was a lot of good competition from the Suburban League National Division. So I'm looking for a rebound this week when some of these schedules start to normalize out, and then we'll get back into conference play. Where, right now it's the two teams that you might not have thought would be undefeated are undefeated right now. Going into Week 3 in the Suburban League National Division, and we will certainly get into that a little bit later.
Suburban League American Division had a pretty successful week. Some big wins, a couple of heartbreaking losses. One on the road, actually both of those coming on the road. But yeah, there's one big surprise that I want to talk about in my rundown, and another surprise that on the negative side of things. You're expecting a little bit more from certain teams, but definitely some good, solid competition. A lot of good football games out there. A couple of statement games, as I call them, that were made by these teams. So we'll get into that definitely.
Josh Jeffy, the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Well, I mean, one thing we could do is just get right into it. I could tell you all about it right now, as we usually do on our shows. Once again, we are at Z's Cream and Bean. 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Ed, how many cities does it border?
It's a number that's between 3 and 5.
4. 4 cities. That is correct.
7.
Brunswick, North Royalton, Strongsville, and Hinckley.
I wonder how many people out there got that right, or you made them think with a 3 to 5.
I mean, we did go to Brunswick, so the fact that I had to throw a clue in there maybe threw a couple people off there. I'm not really sure.
Well, Ed, thanks for this segue. Speaking of Brunswick, they are going to lead off our recap of the Greater Cleveland Conference Week number 2. Brunswick played host to Cleveland Heights this past Friday, and once again, it was not a very good showing for the offensive Brunswick Blue Devils as they go down in this one 13-0. Brunswick did not get their first down until midway through the second quarter. The only scoring in this game happened for Cleveland Heights, 2 TDs. Josh Harris, quarterback, had a 1-yard run, and running back Justin Wootley had a 2-yard run. Brunswick senior quarterback Josh Stocco actually left this game with an injury, knee injury. He did not come back into the game. Sophomore quarterback Jacob Charette played in his first ever varsity game. He was on the freshman team last year, and I tell you what, he didn't do too bad. He led the Blue Devils on some drives in the second half, but those long drives where they started to get some offensive production ended in fumbles in the red zone, in which the Cleveland Heights Tigers did recover those fumbles and went on to stifle the Brunswick offense once again. Give credit to the Brunswick defense. They did a good job again holding the offense with check, but second game in a row where the offense did not step up for the Brunswick Blue Devils. In fact, this game, a total of 87 yards. So Brunswick needs to get on a winning. Needs to get back to winning football this week when they host or when they play Valley Forge before they get into the, as we call it, the meat grinder schedule that is the Greater Cleveland Conference. Ed was there, saw him before the game. Have anything to add, Ed?
I mean, you covered it pretty well. The defense played very well again. Quite honestly, the special teams has not been doing a good enough job of giving the defense into a spot where they can succeed, as that 1-yard touchdown run was set up from a punt that was snapped over the punter's head, and the ball was down around the 3-yard line. So, that's a very short field to have to defend, and try as you might, Cleveland Heights was able to get it in the end zone, and their other play, their other touchdown was one of the very, very few defensive lapses that the Brunswick defense had on the night, but they've played very, very well the last 2 weeks, well enough to win for sure. The offense just needs to, it's no secret. There's been 7 points scored out of 2 games, and those 7 points were from the kickoff return team. But as I said last week, and I'll reiterate this. The coaches will, Coach Nowak and Coach Benzoni will find a way to turn this around. Having to throw a sophomore quarterback in last week is never an ideal situation, but Charette did a very good job, acquitted himself pretty well for getting his first varsity start, and we'll see where things go going forward for the Blue Devils.
One of the things there it is. Any hoozle.
Way to start the week.
What I'll say is that for 2 games, a couple of things that have stood out to me are, God, you're killing me with that. Is Brunswick's defense, specifically their defensive line. From what Josh said in the, we were kind of going back and forth with him Friday night while we were covering the game of the week. He was saying, look, Brunswick's defensive line is giving opportunities, is holding Cleveland Heights. They're able to get penetration. But again, you can only, a defense is only as good as its offense. They feed off one another. It's something that, and I'm sure, Ed, you would agree, and I'm sure Penzoni's, said this. The defense is giving us opportunities, and they're being squandered, whether it's fumbling, whether it's penalties, whether it's inconsistent play. Well, I mean, obviously you're going to get what you're going to get from a sophomore quarterback. We understand that. But if you're in the position, you got to take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. And, the defense is there. They're giving them the opportunities. And 2 weeks in a row now, the defense has been something that you can lean on, but they're not getting what they need as far as, consistency from the offensive side of the ball, and that's tough to dig out of any hole. Again, I would say that this game was close and was gettable.
Yep.
Even with maybe the self-imposed mistake or the self-inflicted wounds, but they weren't able to pull it out, and that's the sign of a good team when they can kind of, and all things are going wrong, they're able to kind of rely on themselves and get themselves out of it. Unfortunately, this has not kind of got off to the start that I know Coach Penzoni wants to do, or the Brunswick fan base wants.
Yeah, I mean a lot of turnovers going into the red zone or in the red zone.
Yeah, and that's where you can't have them.
Those are tough to overcome. So, but it's a learning experience for everybody on the team, and I have no doubt that we'll be ready to roll against Valley Forge here in week 3.
Thanks, guys. In this game, Cleveland Heights improves to 1-1. Brunswick falls to 0-2, and like we just mentioned, they will play Valley Forge this coming Friday. The Menor Cardinals still playing at a high level. They improved to 2-0 on the season. With a 28-7 victory over St. Ignatius. St. Ignatius drops to 0-2. That is the first time they've been 0-2 since 1987. And give credit to the Menor defense. They gave up only 30 total yards of rushing in this game. Menor offense was once again led by Ian Kipp, the sophomore quarterback. He was 12 for 21, 212 yards. He also added 87 yards rushing to go along with 2 total touchdowns. Wide receiver Luke Floria, 6 receptions in this game for 166 yards. So he hooked up with Ian Kipp a lot in this one. And Menor continuing to play well. They will actually be hosting Glenville this Friday as they look to go in with an undefeated non-conference schedule so far in 2018. Another team playing really well in the Greater Cleveland Conference is the Strongsville Mustangs. They improved to 2-0 on the season with a 35-28 victory over Hudson. Now, the team combined for 35 fourth-quarter points in this game.
Wow.
The Mustangs led 28-21 with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Then running back for the Mustangs, Taylor Griffin, ran it in with a touchdown with 1 minute 24 seconds left. Hudson answered back with a touchdown of their own with 27 seconds left, but that was not enough as the Mustangs went on to a 35-28 victory. Running back Taylor Griffin, the aforementioned, had 89 yards of rushing, 3 touchdowns, and quarterback Johnny Major, kind of a nice, efficient evening, 11-14, 135 yards. Next, Strongsville will travel to Canton Central Catholic, their last non-conference game before they open up with conference. Next game on the docket in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Solon defeated Twinsburg 38-0. Solon improves to 2-0. Twinsburg drops to 1-1. Solon's defense only allowed 26 yards of total offense in this game. Twinsburg last week when they played Copley, totaled 566. So they had a negative 540 yard drop-off in this game. And pretty much this was all Solon when it came to their defense. Their offense didn't do half bad either. They were up 32-0 at half. 255 yards of total offense in that first half. Running back Khalil Eichelberger, 141 yards, 3 touchdowns, and quarterback Pat McQuaid, a nice efficient evening for him, 10 of 15, 117 yards, 2 TDs. Solon is only averaging the opposing offense is only averaging 56 yards of total offense per game against them.
Wow.
So they are playing really well on the defensive end for them. Next for Solon, they will play Stowe Monroe Falls. Elyria dropped a tough game to Bedford 36-0. Bedford improves to 1-1. Elyria drops to 0-2. You know, the name of the game in this one for Elyria was fumbled and stalled drives. They were able to drive the ball and put up some yards against Bedford, but they could not convert on third downs in this one, leading to stalled drives. And they've had 2 or 3 costly fumbles that really slowed down their offense in this one. Running back Davion Drummer, 6 carries, 90 yards. But for Elyria, they need to get their passing game going. They only managed 40 yards of total passing in this game. On a side note, Bedford running back Aaron Stone and Declarion Townsend had 171 combined rushing yards in this one. So it was a nice, hard-working, tough, hard victory for the Bearcats in this one. They go on to beat the Pioneers 36-0. Euclid with a big win over Lorraine, 42-21. Euclid 2-0 on the season. Lorraine drops to 1-1. These two teams traded touchdowns most of the game through the third quarter, and then Euclid scored 21 straight points. Euclid running game totaled 218 yards in this game. Quarterback for Euclid, Dion Valentine, a nice game, 15 of 22, 270 yards passing. But in the Lyrical Chronicle Cleveland.com after the game, Jeff Grotsky, coach of the Euclid Panthers, was a little discouraged by his team's lack of discipline. They did total 14 penalties in this game for 125 yards, and I'm paraphrasing here, and he basically said good teams just don't do that. So they're really looking to clean up as they go into their Week 3 matchup against the Wildcats of St. Ignatius. Now, a little side note, we mentioned that St. Ignatius was 0-2 for the first time since 1987. If St. Ignatius drops this game and falls to 0-3, that'll be the first time they've been 0-3 since 1966. So this is a big game for Ignatius for sure, and it's not too often that we say that, that they actually need to win this game to,
it's a pretty big hole. I mean, if you go 0-3, I mean, Ignatius always, look at Menor so far. St. Ed's and Ignatius, they downed both teams.
For sure.
Very well.
They've done that now twice in a calendar year. They did the same thing in the playoffs last year as a lower seed.
Yeah.
They took them both down back to back. So they've done that. They've beaten each team twice within 1 year of each other.
Holy
which is
cow!
Not many public school teams can say that.
Right.
So,
I would,
absolutely. Hats off to Menor.
I would like to venture a guess when the last time that's actually happened. I bet you it's been probably 1966.
Probably. Yeah.
All right, back to the games on the docket. The Shaker Heights Red Raiders, last second touchdown in this one. Dakota Cochran, 43-yard touchdown reception with 43 seconds left, and they go on to beat Benedictine 23-21. Shaker Heights improves to 2-0. Benedictine drops to 1-1. These two teams have not met since 1932, and they had 4 lead changes. in the last 8 minutes of this game. Shaker Heights led 10-7 at the half, and then it went from there, back and forth action. But Shaker Heights was able to pull it off. I think this is a really big win for them. And again,
it's a great win.
We talk about it every year. They're getting these non-conference wins, and they do a really good job of that. Now they're going to need to muster in some conference wins if they want to make that leap. The final game in Week 2, the Medina Bees improved to 2-0 on the season with a 24-7 victory over Highland, who does drop to 1-1 in this game. Medina defense was pretty stout in this game, despite another great performance from Jake Rogers, and we'll talk about him later on during Sean's update there. But the defense totaled 9 sacks in this game and held Highland to 2 of 13 on third down, which is a really nice stat from them. Quarterback Ryan Fisher, 9 of 20 yards, 9 of 20 in attempts, 139 yards, 1 touchdown, and that 1 touchdown was to wide receiver Luke Hensley. Nick Chester ran back a 70-yard-plus fumble return for a touchdown. Delonte Davis had the other touchdown for the Bees. This is only the third time since 2004 that Medina has started the season 2-0. Both times they made the playoffs. So keep that in mind. Big game coming up for them this week. It's a battle of Medina County as they will play Wadsworth. And so
that's a big game.
Yeah, Medina, is quietly playing really, really good football right now. And that's kind of how they like it. But they want their defense especially. They want to be known that they're a stout defense, and they're going to have to be in the conference that they play in with some high-powered offenses of Euclid and Menor, of course. Player of the week for my Greater Cleveland Conference, it actually goes to a team. Basically, one side of the ball. I'm going Solon defense. Back-to-back weeks, they shut out their opponents, and like I mentioned before, total offenses against the Solon defenses for these 2 games are only averaging 56 yards a game, and that's pretty unbelievable. That's really impressive. So the Solon defense gets my players of the week for week number 2.
Chocolate milk for the Solon D.
Yeah, no doubt.
I know defenses don't get enough credit usually on the show. It's usually offensive players, but Solon. I mean, they're always very good defensively. Offensively, they have the athletes. Menor's been doing great. Medina, like you said.
Yeah, Medina's defense is extremely well coached. They have a good attitude, is where they want to be known for defensive football. Offensive points, being the kind of the one, like you said, the one that steals the headlines. Medina's, courtesy of the Medina Gazette, his coach, the Medina coach went on to say, hey, we're here to win, and we're here to win dirty. We're here to win, defensively, not dirty, but you know what I'm saying, in the trenches, and making sure you could tell that the mindset for the Medina Bees is we want a 13-0 game. We want a 6'3" game, because that means our defense was dominant all night.
Yeah. Well, and I think Shaker Heights was impressive, getting the second win against a good Benedictine team who's always pretty impressive in football.
Yeah, and they will have a pretty good test coming up against Austintown Fitch coming into Shaker Heights next Saturday. We'll see what will happen there. Austintown Fitch is also a very good team. Brunswick has seen them for the past 6 years, and they're kind of taking Shaker Heights is taking our spot there as far as taking on the Falcons. And Austintown Fitch is 2-0 right now. Independent team down from Youngstown, and they are always a tough battle. It's a good measuring stick for Shaker Heights. They're going to go out a little bit out of their comfort zone, playing a team from a little bit further east, and that'll be a great test for them going into conference play. We'll see if they're able to get that victory to go into conference play 3-0. As Josh said, their non-conference schedule and their non-conference success has improved. It has not translated to conference games yet, and they will start conference play with Brunswick. We'll talk about that next week, but this will be another great test for the Red Raiders to see what they can do against a quality team.
That's a great point, Ed, because they need to play teams like the higher quality of Austintown Fitch to not only improve their play, but to, improve their play within the conference. That only help them as they get into conference play. The higher competitive, better teams that they play non-conference will only help them, for sure.
And Euclid with a nice win against a good Lorraine team. So interested to see that matchup with Ignatius. That'll be a big one next week. Right now we'll jump to the Southwestern Conference, and we'll get right into the thick of it here in Week 2 with Olmsted Falls traveling to Avon. And Avon running back Nick Parasek, he had 2 fumbles in Week 1, but that didn't stop him or the offensive line from dominating the line of scrimmage. They started off with a 77-yard touchdown run to end the first quarter, and that really set the tone in this game as he rushed for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns in what was a 52-14 win for Avon as they continue their dominance in the Southwestern Conference. Avon quarterback Ryan Malloy, he was 11 of 15 with 189 yards and a touchdown. He did add 40 yards on the ground and a touchdown on 13 carries. 6 Eagles players scored in this game for Avon. And for Olmsted Falls, Michael Howard for the Bulldogs, he did run a kickoff to the house to cut the lead at 24-14 before halftime, but that's as close as the Bulldogs would get in this game as Howard had 50 yards rushing and a touchdown. Teddy Grenzinski, which I was a little surprised with this stat, he only threw 6 times. He was 1 of 6 for 12 yards and an interception in this game. And running back Jack Spelsey, he ran for 57 yards on 9 carries. Again, Avon's defense, they did a job holding this Olmsted Falls offense to 14 points. They win 52-14. Avon now 2-0 takes on a very good Avon Lake team. And Olmsted Falls, they fall to 1-1. They will host Westlake. So a surprising win there for Avon. I thought it would be a little bit closer of a game, but again, Avon just knows how to get it done.
Yeah, especially, Olmsted Falls wanted this game so bad, too, so you thought it'd be a little more competitive. But it just shows, like you said, Rob, shows how good of a team Avon is, and they are the class of that conference so far.
I think it's also interesting that you pointed out Teddy Grodzinski only threw the ball 6 times, which is a stark difference than what we saw him throw it Week 1. And I think that's a testament to Avon's defense. They understand not to give Olmsted Falls quarterbacks or their passing game any sort of breathing room. And to do that, you really have to stifle the run and force them. The game plan, I'm sure, was to run the ball with Michael Howard, to run the ball with Jack Spellisy. That's the way Olmsted Falls is predicated on. They really want to pound it down the throat, but when you get behind, we see this a lot, that coaches don't, a team like that runs the ball a lot and relies on ball control, unless they get a lot of home run plays, kind of has to keep going with the formula. And unfortunately, it doesn't produce a lot of quick points, which is what you need against a team like Avon. But, again, Avon just putting the Southwestern Conference on notice first week. Hey, guys, the championship here runs through Avon, and you got to beat them. And, we'll see if Avon Lake can do that next week, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think Coach DeLuca, after the game, said one word for Avon is they're elite, and we're just not right now. So we'll see what happens, how Olmsted Falls bounces back, but Avon with a big 52-14 win. Now, North Olmsted, they traveled to Avon Lake, and I thought this would be a really good game. Instead, North Olmsted, they got a good dose of the Shoreman running back Connor Riggs in this game. On the first drive, he scored from 7 yards out. North Olmsted, they did answer with a Darren Anders touchdown that tied the game. Darren Anders actually finished with 75 yards rushing and a touchdown. Avon Lake actually led after quarter number 1, 14-7. But that's when the Shoreman offensive line, now they won in the trenches in this game, giving Riggs running lanes all night. The Avon Lake running back, he finished the night with 263 yards on 35 carries and 4 touchdowns. Avon Lake quarterback Jack Mahalik, he went 9 of 13 for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns while throwing an interception. For North Olmsted, it was quarterback Liam Fay. He went 13 of 21 for 95 yards and a touchdown. But Avon Lake, they just dominated in this game from start to finish. The Eagles had tried to get in it at one point, but they lose 49-14, setting up a huge conference matchup this coming up Friday against the Avon Eagles and the Avon Lake Shoremen. Avon Lake now improves to 2-0. North Olmsted, they fall to 1-1. They will host Midview coming up on Friday. Now, Lakewood, they traveled to Amherst, and they're trying to look and get back in the thick of things. And Kennedy Scagliazzo, he scored 5 touchdowns in this game, and at one point Amherst led 49-0 at half, and they beat Lakewood in this game 56-0. Amherst improves to 2-0 as Lakewood falls to 0-2 on the year. Midview travels to North Ridgeville, and this was probably one of the best games in the Southwestern Conference. It was a dogfight right from the beginning as the offense, they both started slow, going back and forth in this one. At one point, though, we'll skip to the fourth quarter. It was 30-21 Midview. And then on a trick play with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Rangers quarterback Matt Steinmetz connected with Jeremy Sanchez on a 53-yard bomb. It was 30-28. North Ridgeville got right back in it when kicker Aiden Vanover, and I know Ed would love this, as he kicked and connected on a 32-yard field goal. There was still time left, as it was 31-30 North Ridgeville. Then Andrew Gooch, the quarterback for the Middies, tried to lead the Middies on a comeback, and they actually drove the ball down the field, but they fell a little bit short, and they lose 31-30 as the Rangers snap the Middies' 8-game win streak against them here. So a big win for North Ridgeville, pulling one out against Midview, as Midview now falls to 0-2. They travel to North Olmsted. The Rangers improve to 1-1, and they will host Amherst, who's 2-0. So that's going to be an interesting one as Amherst travels to North Ridgeville.
Ridgeville needed that game just to provide them a little mojo, a little confidence going into that game against Amherst, because Amherst is high-powered right now.
By a player named Kennedy Scagliazzo.
Yes, and he's on fire right now, so he's going to come in looking to continue his hot streak. So Ridgeville's going to have to step up. Coach Durbin.
And, one of the things, again, that I would say is that Coach Durbin mentioned that to us in the interview is they look at they point to that Midview game. They say that's their biggest rival. And like you said, Rob, they haven't beaten them in 8 years. And to beat them at home, their first home game of the year, after a pretty crushing loss to North Royalton last week, and now, like Josh says, you got Amherst staring you in the face next week. It's that was a great win for North Ridge. That's something you can really build on, because it's not often that you beat Midview. It's not often. Yeah. I mean, obviously, once in the last 8 years you do it. That's congratulations to the Rangers. Congratulations to Coach Durbin, and now you got a test ahead of you, because you're not only playing Amherst next week, but you got Berea Mid Park, and that unbelievable offense.
Yeah, we'll talk about them.
We'll talk about
later.
them.
They fill the stat sheet.
Put on a pot of coffee, because I got a lot of things to say about Berea Mid Park.
Yeah, we'll see we'll see how Midview responds. I mean, this is really the first. This is the first time they haven't started off the season in a way they wanted to since they've joined the Southwestern Conference. Since them and Avon joined a couple of years back, them two have been pretty much running roughshod all over the Southwestern Conference. So, they've had some very elite quarterbacks play for them, in Cody Calloway and Dustin Crum. So we'll see where Midview goes from here, if they're able to pull it together against a very, very tough North Olmsted team next week, because we're going to try to get untracked and try to get that first victory of the year.
Yeah, I think there's some really good games when you look at Avon Lake versus Avon. I think that's going to be an interesting one, because both offensive lines seem to dominate the line of scrimmage. But like you said, Midview last year, they got behind against Lorraine early, but they came back and won that game. This year, they weren't fortunate to come back, and now they lose to North Ridgeville. So we'll see what happens there. That was 31-30. North Ridgeville pulls one out versus Midview. Now, my player of the week in the Southwestern Conference goes to Avon Lake running back Connor Riggs, 263 yards on 35 carries and 4 touchdowns. You just don't see –
workhorse.
Yeah, you don't – I mean, you see 35 carries. I think a few years back we saw it all the time, and it seemed like a lot of these offenses are passing a little bit more. Some teams still love to run the football. We see Olmsted Falls and Avon Lake is another one, but they do balance it out a little bit. But Connor Riggs had a heck of a game with 263 and 4 touchdowns on the game. So congratulations to him, and we'll step away and take a short break as we're live from Z's Cream and Bean. And if you want to catch Sports on Tap. Visit our website, sportsontappodcast.com, where we have updated standings from all of our conferences that we cover. Stories, video, pictures, everything's right there, so check it out. At SOT Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Archive all of these episodes on our YouTube channel, so go check that out. That's on our website as well. When we come back, we'll talk a little Suburban League with Sean and Ed coming back. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean. We're Sports on Tap.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEOSportsInsiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
And welcome back to Sports on Tap. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean. It's our Ohio High School football coverage as it's our Week 2 game recaps here on Mixlr and archived on YouTube. I'm Rob Trombley. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy here.
Yo.
And right now we just had a chance to talk about the Greater Cleveland Conference and the Southwestern Conference. Now let's go over to Ed, who will tell us a little bit about the Suburban National Division. Ed?
Sure will. We'll start with Brecksville Broadview Heights. They were looking for their first victory against a rapidly improving Garfield Heights team looking to go 0 and start their season 2-0. Unfortunately for the Brecksville Broadview Heights,
Bees.
the Bulldogs had different ideas. Garfield Heights dominated this game from start to finish.
Oh.
They kept constant pressure on sophomore quarterback Joe Labus. So far, the Bulldogs, Ethan Beauford, scored on an interception return for a touchdown, on top of 4 rushing touchdowns by 3 different running backs. The Bees did get on the board with a 20-yard touchdown run by Ethan Hatcher in the fourth quarter, but it was well too late and definitely not enough. Garfield Heights with a 35-6 victory over the Brecksville Broadview Heights.
Bees.
Garfield Heights moves to 2-0. They will host 1-1 Bedford next week. Brecksville Broadview Heights drops to 0-2. They will host winless Willoughby South. Cuyahoga Falls, the Black Tigers, they travel to Norton to take on the Panthers. The Tigers did get on the board first with a quick touchdown. However, Norton answered with 13 unanswered points in the second quarter, and they were able to hold off the Black Tigers in the second half, coming out with a 13-6 victory. Cuyahoga Falls, their winless streak does continue all the way back to week 1 of 2016. Norton improves to 1-1. They are going to host 1-1 Parma Heights Holy Name. Cuyahoga Falls is 0-2. They're going to travel to undefeated. Well, they're going to travel to Barberton in a Suburban League crossover contest next week.
That's going to be a tough one.
All right, we'll go over to Macedonia, Nordonia. The Knights, they traveled to Peninsula to take on Woodridge. The Knights started out quickly with a 41-yard screen pass from senior Robbie Levick to freshman running back Cooper Rusk. And then senior kicker Evan Weehee converted a 37-yard field goal for a quick 10-0 first quarter lead. Levick kept the scoreboard moving in the Knights' favor, finding last week's player of the week, Julius Jones, for a 51-yard touchdown. Woodridge scored 13 points to get themselves back into the game at 17-13 at the half. However, Levick found Jones and Rusk for touchdowns covering 84 and 51 yards respectively. The Nordonia Knights pull away for a 44-13 win over the Woodridge Bulldogs. Senior quarterback Robbie Levick for Nordonia. He threw for 393 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Whoa.
And,
Player of the game nominee?
Absolutely. And then Julius Jones, he of the Player of the Week last week, he caught 6 passes for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns of his own. Woodridge falls to 0-2. They're going to travel to 0-2 at Bucknell next week. Nordonia has matched last year's win total, and they will put their 2-0 start on the line next week against traveling 1-1 Mayfield. Moving on, North Royalton. The Bears hosted Parma at Serpentini Stadium, hoping to build off their Week 1 victory against North Ridgeville. And the Bears ambushed the Redmen, led by 3 first-half interceptions by senior defensive back Carson Roska. Junior quarterback Jory Marisek and the Bears offense were more than happy to turn the additional opportunities into points. They scored 21 points in the second quarter, and then the Bears pitched a shutout, beating the Parma Redmen 34-0. Bears quarterback Joey Marisek completed 12 of 19 passes for 221 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2 of those touchdowns went to Joe McVicker, who caught 4 passes for 87 yards. Bears running back Simon Antonio, he is the younger brother of last year's running back Zach Antonio. He rushed 8 times for 120 yards and a touchdown. Parma is 1-1. They're going to host Cleveland Heights John Marshall, also 1-1. North Royalton is 2-0. They will travel to Granger Township to take on the Medina Highland Hornets in Week 3. While Josh covered this game a little bit earlier, Hudson traveled to Pat Catan Stadium in Strongsville for a non-conference bout with the Mustangs. Strongsville did jump out to a quick 21-7 halftime lead. Hudson quarterback Liam Brennan did find pay dirt from a yard out to account for Explorers' touchdown. After a scoreless third quarter, offensive explosion with 35 points between the two teams in the fourth quarter. However, the Mustangs' lead was just too much for the Explorers despite a Brady Ludwig 3-yard touchdown run and touchdown passes from Liam Brennan to Zachary Palmer and Peyton Miller for touchdowns. Strongsville, as mentioned before, with a 35-28 victory over the Explorers. Hudson quarterback Liam Brennan completes 14 of 25 passes for 260 yards and 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brady Ludwig rushed for 79 yards and added 69 through the air. Strongsville improves to 2-0. They will travel to 1-1 Kenton Central Catholic. Hudson drops to 0-2. They will look to rebound against visiting and undefeated Springfield. Stowe Monroe Falls. They traveled to Ashland University for a neutral site game with Hilliard Bradley. The Bulldogs did get on the board early with 2 touchdowns, one of which was a touchdown pass from quarterback Josh Andresi to wide receiver Dalen Stovall. Bradley then came back with 2 touchdowns going into halftime for a 14-13 lead. Stowe running back J.R. Atkinson countered with a 2-yard touchdown run for a 19-14 lead. However, the 2-point conversion did fail, paving the way for Bradley to respond with a touchdown with over 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and giving them a 20-19 lead. Stowe got the ball back in Bradley territory late in the game, able to turn over Bradley on downs, but they could not convert a game-winning field goal, and the Hilliard-Bradley Jaguars hold on for a 20-19 win over the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs. Hilliard-Bradley moves to 2-0. They will travel to 2-0 Hilliard-Davidson. Stowe Monroe Falls drops to 0-2, and they certainly have their handful next week against undefeated and host team Solon.
For sure.
In Week 3. Speaking of Solon, another cross matchup here between the Suburban League National Division and the Greater Cleveland Conference. As Josh mentioned before, Twinsburg and quarterback Adam Van de Mater cannot get rolling against this very stout Comets defense. 26 yards says it all. That's all they were able to get against that vaunted Solon defense. 38-0 thrashing at the hands of the Comets. Nothing really more needs to be said about this game. Solon improves to 2-0. They will continue their run through the Suburban League National Division against Stowe Monroe Falls. Twinsburg is 1-1. They will host the Aurora Greenmen in another Suburban League cross-division contest.
And, Twinsburg's a team that usually is a pretty high-powered offense. They put up a lot of points. Defensively, I think in years past, they've kind of had a good defense but not a great defense. But that just shows you. I mean, Solon every year, it seems like they regroup. They've always been very solid defensively, and they're continuing this year. I think the Greater Cleveland Conference is just tough when you have teams like Menor, Euclid, and Solon at the top, and it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Well, and I think for Twinsburg's offense obviously is not 26 yards a game bad. I mean, just the game before they
usually you accidentally get 20 yards.
The game before they had 566 yards of offense.
Yeah.
So, obviously they're somewhere in between, probably more closer to the 500 yards per game team that we've grown accustomed to. So, that's got a big game. This is a big game for them coming up against Aurora. I mean, it's a cross-divisional matchup, but they need to get back on track, and I'm sure their coaching staff's going to have their players ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you have a third-year starting quarterback in Adam Van de Mater. It's not very easy to jump on a very experienced starter like he is, but Solon was able to get that done, and this will be a big game really for both Aurora and Twinsburg.
Absolutely.
Going into their respective conferences, this could be the difference between a playoff spot between one and the other. I mean, you play these neighborhood games, Solon, Twinsburg, Aurora. I mean, they're all in the general same area, so it's a very good contest between all these teams whenever they all play each other. Last and certainly not least, defending Suburban League National Division champion Wadsworth. They found themselves in a battle against host Worcester. After trailing 31-21, the Grizzlies rallied with 16 unanswered points, getting a safety, and they had 2 one-yard touchdown runs, one each by Dom Laparo and Brock Snowball. The Generals did have the ball at the Grizzlies' 4-yard line, but the Wadsworth D thwarted Worcester's efforts and held on for a very tough 37-31 victory over the Generals. A big win for another big win for Wadsworth against a very game Worcester team. Dom Laparo finished with 168 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns for the Grizzlies. Very, very impressive, but not as impressive as wide receiver Carson Risher. He set a Medina County record with 266 receiving yards to go along with a touchdown reception. These two teams combined for 1,046 yards, 633 of which belonged to Wadsworth. So
holy cow!
The grounds crew, the chain gang there certainly got their workout in.
Got their steps in, Fitbit
for sure. Worcester falls to 1-1. They will travel to 1-1 Dover. Wadsworth is 2-0, still undefeated. They will host undefeated Medina in a very intriguing Medina County matchup in week 3.
Game.
And, Medina's defense, they wanted to really kind of let people know that they're a team to be reckoned with, and this is going to be a big challenge for them. Coming off, going against a Wadsworth team that just, like Ed mentioned, put up 633 yards of total offense. So a lot of game planning is going to go into this one, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one. So the defense may be decent, but I think the offenses in this game will be even better.
Well, I mean, the big worry with Wadsworth is you're going to be able to maybe not replace Joey Boffman, but at least get close to his production. And in the first 2 weeks, they've found that. Junior quarterback Trey Schaefer has done very well for himself, and whenever you set up a receiver to get a county record for receiving yards in a game, you're doing it right for yourself. So this will be a very, very good matchup. I'm looking very forward to this going into week 3.
Well, and I'm sure you don't know this, but how many snowballs are coming up? Because it seems like there's a snowball every year. They replace one snowball with another snowball.
Well, as you know, Rob, the
effect.
nature of a snowball is it just keeps collecting as it rolls down the hill. So I would say several snowballs are coming down the hill. Would you not?
Possibly. I mean, the last snowball we saw was, I believe, back in 2010, 2009. No, it was a while ago when Jack Snowball was tearing it up for the Wadsworth Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Back in the late 2010s, early 2000s, and Brock, Brock is doing his thing. He knows he's not. He knows he doesn't feel as if he's in Jack's shadow. He's just he's doing his own thing, and his team's being very successful at it. My player of the week this week is going to be Wadsworth wide receiver Carson Risher.
Should be.
It was I'll tell you what, it was a tough one. Robbie Levick certainly put his name in the hat there with almost 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. But
you break a county record though.
He set a county record. You
That's
are
crazy.
player of the week material. So Carson Risher, 266 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, Medina County record.
Man.
And right now we have Wadsworth, Macedonia, Nordonia, and North Royalton are all 2-0 going into their last game of non-conference play. And we'll see what happens next week before they before we separate the men from the boys, as they say in conference play. Now we'll kick it over to my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy with the Suburban League American Division, Week 2.
Fantasy
Thank you.
football loser. Oh, sorry.
And his Week 1 opponent. Don't forget that.
Oh.
Thank you, Ed. First off, we'll start with CVCA traveling into Aurora, and the Green Men were able to get into the win column for the first time this year with a 29-28 over CVCA. Guys, this was a back-and-forth game all night until Green Men senior running back Jack Arnold's big 46-yard touchdown run with less than 5 minutes to play in the game pulled Aurora within 1 point of CVCA. Alec Houston's 2-point conversion pass gave the Green Men a 29-28 lead, and that would prove to be the final score. Aurora is 1-1 on the season. They travel to take on Twinsburg in Week 3. Moving on, Barberton laid the smack down on Kenmore Garfield 50-8 in a Week 2 win. The Magics were led offensively by running back Keandra Turner. Guys, listen to this. 8 carries, 115 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. This guy was the go-to guy for the Magics whenever they needed to score, and they were able to get that. Wide receiver Caleb Vega had 2 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown on the night as well. The Magic's defense also got in on the scoring action thanks to an interception return for a touchdown by cornerback Ryan Watkins. Barberton, 2-0, will host Cuyahoga Falls in Week 3. Copley would host Firestone, and guys, Copley was not messing around in this game as they were able to dominate all facets of the game and roll to a 28-0 victory over visiting Firestone in Week 2. Copley was led offensively by quarterback Joe Rijo, who went 16 for 25, 144 yards, and a touchdown. Running back Malik Spragling had 18 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown, and Copley is now 1-1 on the season and will host Uniontown Lake in Week 3. Kent Roosevelt traveled in to take on Marlington in Week 3, and they unfortunately dropped a tough one, 35-7 in that contest. The Rough Riders were led by Mikey Friedman, who had an interception and a rushing touchdown by quarterback C.J. Anderson. Unfortunately, that was all she wrote, and that was all the highlights had for the visiting Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders. Kent Roosevelt falls to 1-1 on the season, and they will host Ravenna in Week 3. One of my big surprises for the week is Revere going to Eastlake North and completely dominating that game. Revere rode another impressive performance to a 46-0 shutout win against North in Week 2. They were led by last week's Player of the Week, Nathan Klonowski, who had 4 touchdown passes, 2 to wide receiver Garrett Reed, 1 to running back Matt Busser, who also had a 63-yard touchdown run on the night, and 1 to wide receiver Matt Gaham. Running back Brandon Tricano was also able to add a 5-yard touchdown run to add to the 46 points that Revere was able to put up, not to mention this shutout that the Revere defense was able to put on Eastlake North. Revere is now 2-0, and they will host Firestone in Week 3.
Wow.
Talmadge hosted Ellett, and guys, this one was a roller coaster the entire night. Talmadge was able to defeat Ellett 20-14. However, Talmadge struggled defensively in the first half, but they rebounded with a shutout in the second half. Led by quarterback Sam Seeker, who went 7 for 14 for 65 yards passing, 11 carries and 90 yards, 1 touchdown rushing, along with running back Rich Ear, who had 20 carries for 140 yards, and Evan Teeling and Mike Yamakowski also scored touchdowns for the Blue Devils. They were able to hold on to a 20-14 lead and improve to 1-1 on the season. Next week in Week 3, they host Coventry. And as Josh mentioned, Highland traveled in to take on Medina, and Highland was not able to overcome a combination of an impressive Bees defense and self-imposed errors in a 24-7 loss to Medina in Week 2. Highland's offense was under constant attack by the Bees' defense, allowing 9 sacks, converting only 2 of 13 first down attempts, and only being able to score 1 touchdown in 4 trips to the red zone, including a costly fumble by quarterback Jack McGinty of the Hornets. The Hornets' only touchdown came on a 4-yard touchdown run by Delonte Davis late in the fourth quarter, but it was all over at that point in time. Jack McGinty went 14 for 23, 161 yards, and also had 19 carries, but only was able to average a negative 5 yards on the night. All-county running back and superstar of last week's game against Brunswick, Jake Rogers, had 24 carries for 169 yards, and he also kicked in 4 receptions for 42 yards. But again, the story of the game was the fact that they were not able to get into the end zone. Despite being able to move it between the 20s, once they got into the red zone, they were not able to convert any of those for points. Highland falls to 1-1. They will host 2-0 North Royalton in Week 3 matchup. My player of the week, I'm giving it to Barberton running back Keandra Turner. 8 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So congratulations to Keandra Turner. Before we go any further, guys, I'm doing the Buckeye recap. Rob, Buckeye recap.
Good. I'm glad.
Ed, Buckeye recap coming straight to you.
We might have accidentally forgot.
Yes, I didn't want to forget.
Clear on the Buckeye recap. Okay, because this was actually a really good game here. Rocky River traveled into Buckeye Buck Stadium, and the Bucks were able to put up an impressive 28 points all the way through the third quarter and held a 28-0 lead into the third quarter. But the Pirates were not going quietly into that good night, sir. They were able to put 21 points up in the fourth quarter and make this a game. In fact, it was all the way down to where the Bucks defense, who had basically been ravaged in the fourth quarter, was able to make one last stop and stop a possible tying and even a comeback win for the Pirates. All 28 points for the Buckeye Bucks came by the way of the running game. Quarterback Jacob Durgee, 22 carries, 174 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. And running back Dom Monaco had 16 carries for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, the Buckeye defense almost let a 28-0 lead slip away, allowing the Pirates to score 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, but were able to hold on for the 28-21 victory. Buckeye is 1-1, and they will host Cloverleaf in Week 3. Guys, that's all I have from the American Division, as well as the Buckeye Bucks recap. Guys, the Buckeye recap. A couple things stood out to me here in the Suburban League American Division. One is Revere. I think Revere is a team that is making a statement right now. They've defeated the Buckeye Bucks, who've been tough on them
every
the past
year
2 years. Yeah. And they've defeated a very good Eastlake North school on the road.
Put up a lot of points against a Westlake team who, the Westlake defense, we've seen has struggled a little bit, but the Westlake offense puts up some points. So when you hold the Eastlake North team, who I think they scored 42 points in Week 1 to 0, I mean, that's saying something. So great job by Revere and their defensive line there and defensive scheme there to hold them to 0 points.
Yeah, they have a really good chance of starting the season out 3-0 before they hit their own turbulence, starting with Barberton, Highland, and then going into Copley. That's where we'll see what Revere is really made of, provided they can take care of business against Firestone. Their season starts in Week 4 when they host Barberton.
Yeah, Barberton is also another team that was really impressive in Week 2, putting up 50 points, only giving up 8. Pretty solid defensive and offensive performance there. But another thing that really caught my eye was Aurora, again, hanging on, tight win against CVCA, needing some last-minute theatrics. You got to wonder what that does when they have to go in and take on who they take on Twinsburg next week. As Ed mentioned, that's a very, very big game for both those teams, and it sets up right before conference play. Now, Aurora has been kind of in the situation last year where not a great non-conference season, but we're able to turn it around to play the way they've been playing and take care of business in the conference. But the way the conference is shaping up, when you have Barberton, you have Copley, you have Revere now, and even, I wouldn't count out Highland from being a team if they can get their offense together and start not shooting themselves in the foot. That's a team that may be coming for Aurora's crown, and I think maybe for the first time in the couple years that I've been covering this division, we may have ourselves a dogfight in the American Division between 3-4 good teams that all have a shot, at least for a share of that championship.
I mean, last year he had a pretty good dogfight between Barberton, Highland, and Aurora. And Barberton came out on top last year with their undefeated season with Key Thompson and Zane Reese just destroying, setting records all throughout the their magical run last year.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
And,
Hey-o.
but traditionally, Barberton has not been able to sustain that for more than a year at a time. So this will be big. Aurora is a very established program. They've been able to sustain success over the course of years. Coach Gibbons at Highland is working his way towards that out up here, not too far from where we're at now. So those are your main legacy types of programs that you need that a conference needs. Right now, Aurora is probably the best one of that group over a sustained amount of time. We'll see if Barberton can hang on to what they achieved last year, and if Highland can catch up to them.
Yeah, it should be fun, and we got no crossover games with any of the conferences that we cover for the American division this week, but that's not the case. Next week we have 2 in the Suburban League, and then I think 1 crossover in the GCC next week.
It's Highland and North Royalton are going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see about that. But when we'll step away, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about our game of the week from last week, which was sponsored by Mullins Construction. That was in Berea Mid-Park as the Demons traveled into Titans country. We'll tell you all about that. And also our game of the week coming up here in week 3. All coming when we come back. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, where it's dark right now, but it's beautiful outside, and the people are coming in, want some ice cream. So come on up to Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 in Boston Road in Hinckley. We'll be right back. We're Sports on Tap.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream and Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream and Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
And welcome back to Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, 2706 Boston Road. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, Sean Duffy here with you in our game number 2 week recaps here as we go through all of the games in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Southwestern Conference, and the Suburban League. And also now as we move to our game of the week, is our Sports on Tap game of the week, and we want to thank Mullins Construction for sponsoring this game, which was Westlake traveling to Berea Mid-Park. And, you know, Sean did a great job writing this story. It's on NEOSportsInsiders.com, but also on SportsOnTapPodcast.com, where he gives pretty much full details into this game. We also have video that gave, that fit into the story, which was nice. Interviews we had with Coach Hunick and Trevor Baczynski you'll see on there as well. So we'll go through a little bit of the recap here.
I'm stretching out my hand, Rob, because I think I may have contracted carpal tunnel syndrome with the amount of points, yards, and plays that were that occurred in this one game.
Yeah.
As
There were a
Rob will
lot.
get into, this was not a defensive battle to the extent that some of these other games that we covered earlier tonight have
Well,
been.
we figured it probably wouldn't be. Last year was kind of the same. It was almost a shootout. But it was the Titans here in Week 2 that got off to a pretty quick start. They drove 73 yards in the first 40 seconds of the opening quarter as senior quarterback Trevor Baczynski, who you'll hear often here, he connected with senior wide receiver Garrett Waite on a 13-yard touchdown pass. It was 7-0 Titans. Then after a missed 29-yard field goal attempt by Westlake, the Titan offense, they got right back to it on a 77-yard throw and catch from Baczynski to senior wide receiver Dwayne Holland. It was impressive to see this offense clicking on all cylinders as Baczynski was scoring a 4-yard touchdown run on the next play. After that long 77-yard throw, it was 14-0 with 6:11 still left in the first quarter. And the Titans, one thing we saw it in the Strongsville game, they get off to a really quick start. Is the offense going to continue? And it seemed like this offense really couldn't be stopped by the Demons early on.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things really did kind of jump out to me. One was the amount of time it took Baczynski to check down to his number 1 and number 2 receivers. And the other thing is how fast these receivers were. I mean, it wasn't just Waite and Holland. I mean, his running back was getting out behind defenders. And a lot of times Baczynski was just throwing it up, and, it seemed like, Berea Mid-Park was just there was a receiver or a tight end or somebody that was just so wide open. And you got to wonder if it was just blown coverage or just the receiver really just being a lot better than the corner that was covering him. But it was a sight to see that in that opening quarter because it was just all Berea Mid-Park.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the one thing with Berea Mid-Park. Offensively, they like to pass the ball, but they balance it out with a nice running game. And a fumbled snap by the Demons on the next offensive possession. That led to another touchdown between Baczynski and Holland, this time from 34 yards out. It was 21-0 with 3:57 left in the first quarter. And, Westlake turned the ball over. They had some penalties, and really Berea Mid-Park took advantage of it.
Yeah, that was a big turning point for Westlake because they were kind of putting together a nice little drive there, and then what seemed to be a snap where either it was a bad snap to the quarterback or it was supposed to be like a jet sweep, but the running back ended up hitting the ball as he was coming across in motion, and the ball just kind of bounced off him and almost into the lap of a Berea Mid-Park Titan defender as they were coming to the line. And that was a tough one, I think, for Westlake because they were really putting together a drive that may have got some points, but it actually turned into another opportunity for the Titans to score and score quickly.
Yeah, and Westlake finally, they were trailing 21-0 with 3:57 left in the first quarter. Westlake was finally able to get on the board thanks to a 60-yard touchdown pass from senior quarterback Jacob May to senior wide receiver Kevin Walls. And the Titans then led 21-7. And you'll hear Kevin Wall's name a few times.
Yeah.
He's a tall, lengthy kid that can really catch the football, and he got some separation and made a great catch. But then, Berea Mid-Park, they're up 21-7, and they would score again to end the first quarter with senior running back Bryce Agnew on a 3-yard touchdown run. The Titans led the Demons at the end of the first quarter. It was 28-7, Berea Mid-Park, and it seemed like the Berea Mid-Park offense, I was interested to see with Westlake how they would respond, and they responded quick on the next possession with a touchdown run by Agnew.
Yeah, and Agnew was not only effective offensively, but he played a really big role on the defense as well.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys charged with keeping Kevin Walls in check for most of the game, and he did a good job. But there was one point where Kevin Walls is a great receiver, like Rob said, very tall. He's got a quick first move, and he was able to beat his defender and just get behind him. And Jacob May threw a beautiful pass down the right hand sideline, and it caught him in stride, and he was gone. And it was a great sign for Westlake fans because they finally got on the board and actually got out of their own way a little bit with that fumbled snap exchange on the previous possession.
Yeah, and Sean did a great job introing Walls there because in the second quarter began with Westlake taking advantage of a turnover by Berea Mid-Park on a punt return that was muffed, and they converted that into a 13-yard touchdown pass Jacob May to Kevin Walls, and they tried to inch closer. It's 28-14 with 10:29 left, so plenty of time left. And you wondered what would happen here because Berea Mid-Park was at this point last week. But Westlake's defense, they were able to force a turnover on downs on the next possession. So the Demons, they had a great drive. They went 70 yards for a score on a 19-yard touchdown pass from May to senior wide receiver Jacob Jablonski. The score was 28-21, and you could see the Tides turning with 2:46 left in the half there. And you see the Westlake fans starting to get into it, and the Demons' offensive guys were getting pumped along with the defense. But Berea Mid-Park, they were able to score not once but twice by the end of the half here. It was first a 14-yard touchdown run by Anthony Miller, and then the second was a 9-yard touchdown pass from Bazinski to Gage Young, who we had on our show. And this was as time expired, which was huge to end the first half. It was Berea Mid-Park leading Westlake 42-21. And, Westlake, they needed really to get a stop there, and they couldn't do it.
Another example of just the ability of that offense to score quickly and get out there. And, hats off to the Berea Mid-Park defense who actually got the ball back and allowed them to score twice. And again, what I failed to put in the article was at one point Westlake was going onside kicks and not converting them. So a lot of times they were setting up short field for a team that didn't. I mean, they went 70 yards in 40 seconds. I don't necessarily know what the strategy was there by Westlake. Maybe it was to keep them off the field and force their defense to make a play. I mean, if that strategy works and they do convert on a couple of those onside kicks, then yes, it probably would have made the difference. But what it did was it allowed for a team like Berea Mid-Park who can score quickly to do just that and score twice before time expires. I mean, twice within 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
That's pretty quick scores.
That's a real testament to how quickly John Hunig's team gets out and just executes their game plan.
Yeah, and then Westlake got the ball to start the third quarter, but they slowed the pace down significantly to start the second half. Obviously, with the game just
it's what you have. Yeah, that's what you have to do with a high-powered offense. You got to keep them off the field. Sometimes that's the best defense. Is your offensive running game. Keep that clock running.
Yeah, and it actually worked because Westlake had a scoring drive of 64 yards, was capped off by a 9-yard touchdown pass from Jacob May to Joseph Klessel. The Titans' lead was 42-28. This was 6:41 left in the third quarter. But Westlake defense, they were able to slow down the Titan offense a little bit, and only a 24-yard field goal from senior kicker Nicholas Ruggiero. At the end of the third quarter, it was 45-28 Berea Mid-Park. And this is when I think you saw the Titans really get on the offensive a little bit because the third quarter was very slow. Not as much scoring, obviously, as much in the first half. So the Titans, they were able to force a Demon punt into the fourth quarter. And then it was a 75-yard touchdown run by junior running back Jabril Williams. And I'll tell you what, this guy, we heard Coach Unick talk about it in our preview. This guy has some speed when he's out in the open. He just outran the defense on that play.
Well, I felt bad for the kid because the play before he rattled off a 60-yard run. They got called back for holding, and then they turned to give it to him again. He's like, okay, I'll just go 75 yards, and he did it. And I think at one point he went back, he kept looking back to see if there were flags, and he didn't want to do it again.
Yeah,
because Unick was going to call that play again. But yeah, that was impressive how quickly he got out to the boundary, and as soon as he got some separation, man, afterburners. This kid was gone as soon as he got daylight, and I was trying to watch Rob on the sidelines kind of keep up with him with his phone, and it wasn't happening either because poor Rob.
Dude, he was so far out. When they score on such long passes or running plays.
Rob at one point just –
you're better off at a Berea Mid-Park game just to stand in the middle of the field on the 50.
Seriously.
Yep.
I mean, some of their
Zoom
plays,
feature.
And you know what? I mean, it was impressive. It was 51-28 on that, and then another long touchdown pass. It was 57-28 with 8:29 left in the game. Kevin Walls again would score later in the game, or actually he would have a kickoff return by Kevin Walls, and later would score on a 1-yard touchdown run by Jacob May. It was 57-35, and that's actually where the game would end. Berea Mid-Park gets their first win of the season, 57 to 35. Westlake, they fall to 0-2, 0-1 in the Southwestern Conference as they look to take on Olmsted Falls next week. Berea Mid-Park, they improved to 1-1, 1-0 in the Southwestern Conference, and they will host Lakewood coming here in Week 3. The player of the game for Berea Mid-Park, it was senior quarterback Trevor Baczynski. He finished with 14 of 22 passing, 325, 4 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown, so 5 touchdowns for him. And he was nice enough to talk to us after the game. But what a great performance by him. Coach Hunick talked to us after the game. Obviously very happy to speak to us after the game. And, Trevor, what a game he had. This guy can air it out. He's a Rice commit. So let's go to Trevor Baczynski, who had time to talk to us after this win.
You can do that.
All right, Trev, talk a little bit about the game tonight and how the offense executed against the Demons defense tonight.
Coming after the loss last week, we had a couple things to work on as a team and as the offense, because the second half we didn't score in the third half. We scored, I think, once in the second half, or in the fourth quarter. So this week in practice, we really emphasized a couple of things, and today we saw exactly what we saw on film and just took advantage of it, took what they gave us, and opened stuff up later.
Yeah, so he was happy with it. I think he was happy that, from last week, I think Berea Mid-Park learned, defensively they weren't amazing in this game, but they were better. Versus a good Strongsville team, they were up pretty big and they kind of squandered that lead, where this week I think it was evident this defense didn't want to give up the real big plays. They gave up a few big plays, but it wasn't as much as in the Strongsville game. So they really did a nice job containing a high-powered Westlake offense.
Yeah, agreed. And the big thing for Berea Mid-Park is can they continue to sustain what they're doing? I mean, I don't think offensively that's going to be a problem. Defensively that's where it's going to come in at. And next week they're going to play a Lakewood team that admittedly is not the highest powered of offenses. They've yet to score a point this year. Berea Mid-Park may not get the best of tests in next week's game. However, I have no doubt that they're going to take care of business and do what they need to do. But then they'll start getting into the meat of their schedule against North Ridgeville and a very resurgent Amherst team and an always dangerous Midview team as they get further along into their schedule. I mean, the last 4 games of their schedule is it's going to be pretty rough. So they need to accumulate as many wins as they can and get that offense really rolling to the point where they'll be able to withstand some of the storms they're going to be facing in Olmsted Falls, Avon Lake, and Avon later in the season. Not to mention a very game and North Olmsted team. I
think Berea Mid-Park also learned a very valuable lesson last week, is that you cannot take your foot off the gas in any way, shape, or form when you're a high-powered offense like that, because your defense is a little bit suspect. I think even John Hunick would say, the defense played a lot better in this week. They made stops when they had to, because that game was definitely trending in the way that the previous game was. There was opportunity for Westlake to capitalize and possibly get that momentum going, but when they needed to, their defense was able to kind of stand up and make stops and force punts and force 3-and-outs and dominate with the way they needed to, take advantage of some fumbles, things like that. So I think it was important for the Berea Mid-Park defense, defensively at least, to learn from last week and build on that, and they can continue to build confidence in what they're doing going into the Lakewood game. And like you said, Ed, it doesn't get easier for them. This Southwestern Conference is a meat grinder of a schedule for a reason. You can't let your foot off the gas. Yeah, Lakewood may not be, Midview. It may not be, Amherst, but it is a Southwestern Conference opponent, and they have the capability of beating you on any Friday night that you play, because guess what? Anything can happen, and that's one of the things that I'm sure John Hunick is reminding this team. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We cannot do that, because the minute you do, you leave yourself open to get beat by teams that you shouldn't get beat. Take care of what your business is and move forward. And I think Ed hit it right on the head there when he said, we got to take care of our business this week and worry about next week. And, congratulations to the Titans getting their first win of the year. It was a big win. It was an impressive win, impressive performance by Baczynski. And again, I really like the depth on that team. It seems like anybody on that offensive skill position is a weapon for them, which is dangerous for a lot of teams because if you stop Agnew, Wait, Klessel, anybody can really make it, tough on opposing defenses.
Yeah, I think Bryn Mid-Park's offense, they're going to always put up points. It's just how is their defense going to come up and make some big plays. But this game, as we move forward, this week's Game of the Week is going to feature some pretty intriguing teams. And one is going to be the North Royalton Bears as they travel to Highland High School to take on the Hornets. I think that's going to be a great game. Highland looking to get a big win. They need a big win. And North Royalton, they're a young team that just keeps getting better and better. Offensively, they put up some points. Defensively, how are they going to play against a Highland team who seems like offensively they can move the ball? Can they finish is the key in this one. Guys, what do you think about this Highland-North Royalton game?
I think this is a big game for North Royalton. This will really see if they can hang with a team that's been very, very good last couple of years, who has a bona fide superstar on their team that is dangerous from all parts of the field. So obviously the big focus for North Royalton is to stop Jake Rogers. If they could do that enough and give Joey Marisek and Simon Antonio and the rest of the Bears offense enough time, to do their thing on the offensive end, I can see North Royalton, really boosting their resume as far as playoffs are concerned in their respective region, and really getting some good momentum going into Suburban League National Division play. I think this will be the game that North Royalton needs to get to give them. I think to give them that confidence. That we've beaten a playoff team from last year, a very good playoff team from last year. And on the Highland end, it's as Sean has alluded to the last couple of weeks is what can Coach Gibbons and Coach Gribble and the rest of the staff over there do to get Jake Rogers untrapped outside of hoping that teams kick to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, we made that mistake a couple times in week one. Medina did a pretty good job of bottling them up. We'll see if North Royalton can do the same.
I'll be interested to see from Highland's point of view, actually which team comes out. Week one, they beat Brunswick pretty soundly. 28-7, and then they came back last week and lost 24-7 to Medina. So it kind of an up and down last 2 weeks. You have Jake Rogers. We already mentioned him. Now let's see if the rest of the team can kind of step their game up and play more of a complete game and see what kind of a team really shows up against a team that I think is very even with them in North Royalton.
I'm not going to say anything because I have an article coming out called A Few Things to Watch For in our Game of the Week. So you can all stay tuned for that tomorrow, and I will let you know. Just one of the things I will point out.
Just one?
Just one. Is
can you call your segment that and then name 10 things?
I could definitely do that. One thing, here's 10 more. I know.
I like it.
Still learning, folks. But no.
At the beginning of everything,
I'm
it's
interested
just one
to
more
see
thing.
how Highland responds. After a big win over Brunswick, after a defeating win over Medina, this team is still very young in the core positions. They rely heavily on the Jake Rogers team. How do they respond? How do they bounce back, especially at home against a team that, in my opinion, I know you said they're even. I think North Ridgeville, talent-wise, is probably a little bit better.
Royalton?
Royalton, yes. North Royalton is a little bit better in key areas, definitely in quarterback, offensive line. I would say they're probably even defensively, and I would also say they're probably even running back special teams-wise, maybe with definitely an edge special teams to Jake Rogers. Anytime that guy gets the ball, it's a thing. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But, again, I'll list out my things to look for in the Game of the Week tomorrow in my article. So if you have 10 minutes and you want to laugh at bad grammar or bad jokes and the ability not to stick to one thing, go ahead and give it a read.
And you know what? You guys all can read that on sportsontappodcast.com.
Sure can.
That'll be there. And also, it will be on our Facebook and Twitter, which is at SOT Podcast. This show and many shows are archived on our YouTube page. Go to NEO Sports Insiders if you want other high school coverage for other games around the area. Guys, week 2 in the books, week 3 upcoming as we went through It's going to be a fun week 3. It always is. I think we're going to start to see teams maybe trying to push ahead. You'll see some teams going down, some teams going up. And, it's going to get to that point where Joe Eitel might make an appearance on this show at some point.
As the classic man known as Macho Man Randy Savage once said, the cream rises to the top.
Gross.
Will it be in week 3?
And Ed Dick wants to say, yeah, dig it, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Dig it.
No, I don't think he does.
He's holding it.
He doesn't want to say it at
You
all.
already said it.
Yeah, but you'd probably say it better.
There's no reason to say it now.
No.
You'd say it better.
Now it's just redundant.
It is.
You've ruined it.
Wow. All right.
Ruined.
Ruined.
This is why Joe Eitel won't come on this show. Kidding.
Hey.
Well, that and he probably doesn't want to.
No, he does.
He's busy enough.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
No kidding.
All right,
computer's like
guys.
smoking.
Great show. We'll see what happens here in week 3. Everyone have a great Friday. For Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy.
We will be back on our normal scheduled date
Oh,
of
that's right.
Monday.
Yes.
Next Monday we will be back in
The
Studio
10th, September
Studio
10th.
J. Live 7:30 from Studio J.
And we'll
right.
be out
Good
there
call.
at Highland High School this week. So if you see us out there, shout at Josh and don't talk to me because I'll be in the booth.
Not nice. It'll be a great game. Guys, great job. For Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Trubman. Everyone have a great week. Good luck to all the teams on this Friday. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.